Soup for President by Robert Newton Peck. Chapter 1. Hike, said Janice. I hiked it. Wobbling in flight like a wounded goose, the lopsided football flew to our fullback, who tucked it into her arm, charging forward with her head down and her chunky legs churning. Grunting an oof, I tried my darndest to throw a block on Eddie Tagger, who was the biggest and best tackler on the other team. Eddie's elbow introduced itself into my cheek, but I grabbed his shirt tail like I was hanging on for murder. Knocked down, I still wouldn't quit. I also bit Allie Tidwell on the ankle. This may sound easy, but it really isn't. You'd have to look all over Vermont to find an ankle dirtier than Allie's. Get her! Get her! Soup was screaming and Eddie was stomping on my ear so that I'd turn loose my hold on his shirt tail. Mud was in my left eye, but squinting, I saw Soup try to tackle Janice. It was like a kitten trying to trip a truck. Out shot her arm. Her fist met Soup's chin, and over he went. This bit of stiff arming slowed Janice down a bit, just long enough for Raleigh McGall to jump on her back and pull her hair. Fall down, ya! Yelled Raleigh. I hollered, come on, Janice! Even with Raleigh on her back, with his hands over her eyes, Janice fumbled forward and fell under, not over, the goal line, which was Mrs. Tomosa's clothesline. Many a touchdown had been scored when a ball carrier had scooted between the wet legs of Mr. Tomosa's long red underwear. Touchdown! Hollered Miss Boland. Raleigh was still trying to bulldog Janice into the turf, even though a hoarse blast from Mrs. Boland's tarnished whistle signified that Janice had proved herself once again to be the best doggone fullback in school. Over trotted Miss Boland to help unsnarl the tangled nest of bodies and bruises. After each play, Miss Boland, our county nurse as well as our football coach, examined us all, the crying as well as the crippled. She dusted us off, dried our tears, and often called the next play. None of us, possibly with the exception of Janice Riker, would have learned anything about the game of football had it not been for Miss Boland. She was the only daughter in a family of 8, so what she had learned of survival she passed along to us. Good run, said Miss Boland. Thanks, says Janice. My shirt's tore, said Eddie, glowering in my direction. I countered with, so's my ear. Let me look, said Miss Boland as she unraveled her hog pile of hurting athletes. My ear received attention ahead of Eddie's tackled shirt. It really stung, and it sounded like a pipe organ. Is it bleeding? You'll endure, said Miss Boland. Soup's lip is all puffed up, I said. Miss Boland inspected Soup's injury, announcing that he, too, would live to face another fullback. I was certain, that Soup was not overly eager to try another tackle on Janice. She was just too tough to tangle with, and I always smiled whenever Janice picked me. Eddie Tacker and Janice were the usual captains. Always, I wanted to be on Janice's team. Wow, could that kid play football? Tweet! Sounded Miss Boland's whistle. Now then, she said, what's the score? 60-0, grumbled Soup. That's right, Miss Boland. The last one was Janice's 10th touchdown. The sides ain't even, Eddie griped. Apparently not, said Miss Boland. Well, you're all battered a bit, but you're playing better than you did last week. We are? You sure are. In fact, I just might be able to dig up the scratch for a new football. I'll take it up with Miss Kelly. We all cheered. Our old one, Miss Boland said as she took the ball from Janice, is just about on her last legs. The seams had given way in several spots, the leather was dry and scuffed up, and the laces could not have handled one more knot. Rather than a football, it looked like a rotten pumpkin. Tossing the football into the air, Miss Boland caught it. Holding the football under one arm, she twirled her whistle in circles, winding and unwinding its frayed cord around her chubby index finger. Miss Boland always wore a white dress, white stockings, and white shoes. Today, she also wore her old school sweater with the big B on the back. My ankle hurts. How come? Said Miss Boland. Somebody bit me, said Allie. Fetch it here. Miss Boland opened her nurse's kit, displaying her impressive supply of swabs and pills and medication. I saw her chunky hand trudge along the corks until her fingers stepped on the right bottle. Up it came. Iodine, gasped Allie. No one else said anything. We all just stared at that little bottle that contained a brown liquid that burned like a March stove. There was hardly a kid in the whole school that hadn't suffered a lick or two of Miss Boland's iodine, and it smarted like all fury. No, said Allie. You got bit, didn't you? Yes'm, Allie replied to Miss Boland. Boy, there's nothing dirtier than the human mouth. Honest? Honest, said Miss Boland. So help me, I'd rather get snake bit than get bit by Rob Peck. Me? I asked. You, she said. I saw you do it. Human mouth is full of germs, dirty as a henhouse. You don't believe it? Well, let's say, said Miss Boland as she pulled the brown cork out of her iodine bottle, that get yourself mixed up in a fist fight. Then what? And you punch some lucky feller in the teeth. Lucky? Right, because the next day that old fist of yours will rise up like Christmas baking. As big as a baseball glove, and you know what causes it? No, we all admitted. Spit, said Miss Boland, dunking a wipe swab on a stick, pulling it up brown from the bottle of the iodine. Human spit is worse than rattlesnake venom. It really is? Asked Allie. His eyes were staring at the reddish-brown ball of cotton that Miss Boland had held closer and closer to my teeth marks on his ankle. That iodine smelled somewhere between a horse and a hospital. Bet your boots. Iodine stings, Allie was crying. You want to lose your leg? No, Hold him still. Soup grabbed one arm and I grabbed the other while Janice grabbed Allie around the neck. I didn't say throttle him, let loose. Allie, stretch forward that chawed up shank of yours and yell Yahoo. Yell it loud? Loud as you can. Yahoo! Yelled Allie. Pinch him, said Miss Boland. It was sort of fun, except for Allie, who was dancing around a bit with a brown cloud of iodine fixed to his ankle. Sure was amusing. Allie Tidwell was crying, and we were all laughing, even though my stomach had a nag inside it because of the fact that Allie's getting toothbit was all my fault. Don't be a baby, I told Allie. It stings. Rob, I turned to look at Miss Boland. No, don't look at me. Look at Allie, she said. What for? Your ear's cut worse than I thought. Oh, no, I thought. Not the iodine. No, it isn't, I said. Miss Boland said it was. So did good old Soup. And then, so did Janice. That's the trouble with fullbacks. They never appreciate centers. Best I put something on it. Like what? Iodine, whispered Soup. I'm sorry I bit you, Allie, I said. What about my shirt, said Eddie Tacker. Put iodine on it, said Soup. The kids laughed. All except me. I was too busy looking at that fresh swab that Miss Boland withdrew from what she always called her bundle of arrows. Then she dipped the arrow in the poison. Step close, Rob. I don't want to. You want your ear to fall off? No, I don't. Fraidy cat, said Soup. Behind my eyes, I could feel the tears starting to form. Gee, I sure didn't want to cry. Not over a little old swipe of dumb iodine. Do you want to yell Yahoo? Not very much. It'll help, Miss Boland smiled. I turned to Allie. Does it help? Not a whole darn lot, Allie scowled at the nurse. You see, I said to Miss Boland, it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. You mean the iodine? Oh, that might tingle a mite, just enough to let you know that it'll kick the stuffing out of the infection. You don't want a pair of germs nesting in your ear, do you? Raising up a ruckus? No, I said. I guess I don't. I don't guess I do. Pinch him, said Miss Boland. Everyone laughed and pinched, Janice especially hard, and I yelled, Yahoo! Yahoo! About as loud as anybody ever yelled it. Everybody in Vermont heard it, and maybe some of the Cross Lake Yorkers. They heard it in Boston, and they heard it in Ohio, and even out in Tulsa. Allie was right. It doesn't help. The doggone iodine hurt like, oh, get up crazy. I could swear that Miss Boland tied a hornet to my ear. If it hurt me this much, I started to feel sorry for those poor little germs. But then it smarted less and less, and Miss Boland put a football bandage on my ear and on Allie's ankle and sewed up Eddie's shirt. She sure knew a whole lot about being a good county nurse. I liked Miss Boland best when she sewed up the football.